Right, so ever since I had this idea about doing something with the C5, I've had a look on the net and I saw what Colin Furze did and absolutely loved it. Hey, I really did. So I thought, right, we're going to do something with a C5. So I started having a look. And they were just such a price. I spotted one in Plymouth that was £50. Now, old Sir Clive passed away. And there's been quite a few memoriams of him. Top Gear did one where they had a bobsled. And it's become quite famous, and so that Plymouth one disappeared overnight and reappeared at 500 quid. I thought, yeah, okay, these are getting stupid expensive, and if I'm going to do something like a hack job with it, I don't have a lot of money. I certainly don't have £1,000 to spend on them. I saw one where a guy was asking for £600, and he said, take it or leave it, no offers, somebody will buy it. And he's right. And it was come collect only. And he said, no, I'm not posting it, can't collect, don't bid, somebody will buy it. And he's probably right. He'll sell that thing. And it wasn't a complete C5, just the body. So it got a little bit crazy. And of course, that made me think, what makes me think, can I make one? Now, obviously, it's not going to be a C5. It's going to be more of a tribute to the C5 because I don't have the molds or the measurements or the specifications or anything like that. What I've got is the user's manual, some pretty pictures, and a keen disregard for people who tell me I can't do anything. So I'm just going to try, even though I've never done this before, I'm going to give it a go and see if I can actually make a body that is good, like a C5. If I can get it exactly like a C5, an awesome winner. Of course, there's a huge risk there because, you know, I may make a complete and utter balls out of it, in which case you'll never see this video again. It will never surface. Or I may do a really good job, in which case I'm just going to crow about it. But having to do all of that, of course, means what I've got to do is find some material that I can use. And this is polyurethane foam board that goes by a whole load of names like Celotex, Kingspan, this is called Rectum. There's a whole load of different ones that you can actually do. And they're always the same. They're a bit of PU foam with a couple of bits of aluminium on it. And this PU foam carves beautifully. So I've cut some slices out and peeled off the aluminium, and I've got a whole load of these blocks of quite clear polyurethane foam, because what I need to do with it obviously is glue it somehow, because I want to build it up in a blocky kind of way and then carve it down to the C5. So I need to test some glues and see what will stick that foam together, and for that I've got a number of choices. This is what Kingspan actually tell you to use. It's a builder's glue. It's that instant grab stuff. This particular one's Unibond, no more nails, but there's a whole load of that stuff. And of course I have done a bit of research on this, by which I mean I've watched an awful lot of YouTube videos and been around the blogs. And this was suggested, because this is a polyurethane foam, this is a polyurethane foam. It was suggested that you try sticking it together with that, so we're going to try sticking it together with foam. The makers also recommend cyanoacrylic glue, which I thought was interesting because that's a multi-purpose cyanoacrylic glue or crazy glue, and Gorilla Glue was suggested because it's another expanding polyurethane glue. So we're going to give these a go, try sticking them together and see which one sticks the best. Let's start with this stuff and see if I can stick me with it to it as well. Okay, so I've left them overnight so that they can set, and as you can see, all four of them have glued to some extent, which is really good. Now this stuff is not the strongest of materials, and it's great for something like a model, which you're going to do a large scale model out of. And I have heard it suggested that if you want to do something that's just out of the board, you're better off by sticking skewers into it, so that things like bamboo skewers will act as a reinforcement. But this is the result. Now here's the foam one. Oh, that's a good bond. Yeah, that works really well. So the gap-filling foam makes a really good bond, but it does spill the foam out, and you do have to leave it to cure for a good deal of time. But that bond is mightily strong, actually, so that's a good contender, and it will fill the gaps. But again, anything you do, you're going to have to leave it overnight for it to turn. This is the No More Nails, the builder's adhesive, which is here. So this is what Kingspan recommend, but they recommend it for sticking it to walls, and I've stuck it to itself. Yeah, and that's rubbish. Actually, it's not so bad. The foam is still stuck there. It's broken the foam away from there. but it hasn't actually penetrated very far into the foam, so it's broken relatively easily. Clearly what's happened with this stuff is as it's expanded, it's gone into the gaps of the foam and held it more strongly together. This one sheared off really quite easily, so that stuff, which had a good deal of slip about it so you could position things really well, and actually did quite a poor job of the bonding. It bonded it, but there's no real strength to the bond, so we're going to discount that one. This one is the Gorilla Glue. Now again, this is a gap filling glue, so it did fill the gaps. Yep, and it's done pretty much the same thing. And you can see that it's penetrated that far, so we've sheared it off that far, held it together quite well, but didn't penetrate very far in. Now, all I did with it was squeeze a bit on. The recommendation is to put a bit on, wipe it, leave it for a little bit to give it time to soak in, and then put the two surfaces together. That seemed like a fair bit of mucking about. It did glue it, it glued it reasonably strongly, but the penetration depth wasn't great, so that's a good contender. And this is the Siren acrylic glue, and it had pretty much the same result. But the difference here with the Siren acrylic is this crazy glue, sorry. It's not a great deal of penetration. It was a fairly rapid grab, but the two surfaces do need to be flat because there's no gap filling quality on this. So, of the glues that we used, I would say that the builder's glue comes last. Remember, they all did work, it's just the break strength after. The builder's glue comes last. Then I think it is, yep, that one, which is the Siren acrylic glue. Then it's that one, which is the Gorilla Glue. That's the builder's glue. And we'll give this one last try to break it. See if we can. We should be able to. Oh, yeah, there we go. And you can see that the penetration depth is pretty good on that one. And then the gap filling glue. So in order of their gluing ability, I've put them in the order of No More Nails, Siren acrylic, Gorilla Glue, foam filling glue. I think the good ones to be using really are one of these two. This one if its surfaces are flat, this one if you need a bit of gap filling. If you've got some huge gaps and you really just want to fill it and sand it afterwards, then this one. So these are the three types of glue we'll be using, probably these two, but certainly sort of there or there. We'll be using to do those different jobs to build our C5 crazy model. But I went through this because while I was reading the blogs, a lot of people were doing all kinds of stuff with this. One guy made a keel of a boat out of it, which I thought was fantastic. And you can do all kinds of things like body shell modelling that you may not have thought of before. So if you're making a tricycle and you want to make a body shell for your trike, this would be a good way to go. And knowing which one of these glues to glue it together with is going to be helpful. So I hope the video was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. And we'll be getting on with the C5 model. Oh, please do remember to like and subscribe.